voices all around me, they just fade in the blue. And I can still shake the feeling that I'm lonelier with you. The voices all around me, they just fade in the blue.
Welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at iPhone filmmaking, and this video is your #1 guide to making YouTube videos using just your iPhone. So 90% of what you guys see on this channel is shot on an iPhone, and the remaining 10% is shot on a GoPro, and that's basically because these cameras are super portable. I need a mic, I need my iPhone, I need a GoPro, and I'm good to go. In order to get the best footage out of both of these cameras, you need to know how to use them, you need to know what settings to dial in, and you need to know what frame rates to shoot in. And I'm going to break all of that down for you in today's video, so get ready, get your coffee, get your iPhones ready, and we're going to be doing the iPhone filmmaking guide for 2023. Let's do this. So the first thing we're going to do is dive into the settings on your iPhone camera app so that your app is ready and set up with you at all times, ready to go at all times as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into your settings on your iPhone, go into camera, you have to scroll all the way down to find it. The first thing you want to do is go into formats. When you go into formats, you're going to see high efficiency. That's what I recommend you use. Just go with high efficiency. It's a better codec on the overall. It's going to save up a lot of space while letting you use the maximum quality on your device. The next you can see is Apple Pro RAW. On my phone it's on, but this is a photography setting. Okay, if you want to know, keep it on. You get the ability to shoot RAW, but I can make an entire video on Pro RAW, so I'm not going to break it down today. The last is Apple Pro Res, which is a codec that Apple provides on their phones, which you can use. I don't recommend you use it all the time, but yeah, you're going to keep it on in the settings. You can control this later within the camera app. You're going to get out of here, go into record video, and you're going to see you have a bunch of different options with the resolutions and frame rates. I'd suggest keeping it at 4K 60 or 4K 24. There are certain times when you use 4K 60 and 4K 24 and 4K 30, and I'm going to break that down for you as the video continues. Okay, the next is show PAL formats. If you're in a PAL-based country, you have to use PAL formats. If you're in an NTSC-based country, then you have to use NTSC formats. I've broken all of this down in another video which explains frame rates as well as PAL and NTSC, so I'm going to leave a link in description. Do check it out so you guys will understand a lot more about what this means. Enhanced stabilization, definitely want it on. Action mode, lower light. Yeah, I normally keep this on. As you guys know, we have action mode on the iPhones now, especially the 14 series. What this is going to do is it's going to reduce stabilization but improve the quality of the video if you keep this toggle on. I think you should do that because, well, action mode in low light is not the greatest. Your quality is really bad and the footage is unusable. HDR video, definitely keep this off because editing HDR is very different to editing regular video, and I would suggest you keep it off because it's a whole different workflow. Yeah, if you're just shooting for social media or if you're watching this guide, that means you're a new filmmaker and you want to keep HDR off at all times. Next, we get out of here. Cinematic mode, record cinematic. I keep it at 4K 24 frames per second. The next is record stereo sound. Yes, you want to do that at all times. Preserve settings. When you go to the preserve settings menu, definitely want to keep your creative controls on. The thing you want to do is activate the grid. The grid is basically these 3 lines, which I'm going to put up on the screen right now. These basically help you compose your shot, and that's basically it. Like, that's all you need to do in your settings with respect to recording video. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at what apps you actually need to film in and what apps I normally use to film my videos using my iPhone. Now, I have a whole folder on my home screen called Photo Video, which has all my photography and videography apps. Essentially, I don't use all these apps majority of the time. I will tell you why, but we're going to run through them and you guys will get an idea why I have them on my phone. The DJI Mimo app is pretty simple. It is DJI's app. I do use a gimbal with my smartphone. I use the DJI OM6. It is a fantastic gimbal. You don't need that, and you definitely don't need the DJI Mimo app if you don't have the gimbal. The next is the Moment Pro Camera app. The Moment Pro Camera app is basically made by the brand Moment, who basically are pioneers of mobile filmmaking. The Moment Pro Camera app has different modes that you can shoot in: photo, video, time-lapse, as well as slow shutter, which is fantastic. Also have manual controls in this app, so basically if you want to convert your iPhone into a DSLR or a manual-based proper camera, you can control your shutter speed, your ISO. I think it's one of the best apps to shoot time-lapses in. I have a tutorial on the app on the channel, so definitely go check out that video. Next is the Double Take app, which is also made by the people who have produced Filmic Pro. Now, Double Take is basically an app that allows you to use multiple lenses on your phone at one time. This, I think, is super cool because you can use your selfie lens as well as your ultra-wide lens, and you can just vlog out in public, documenting everything. When you come home, you can basically edit the footage how you like, and it gives you a lot of creative control. The only downside is it allows you to shoot only in 1080p, so that's not the highest resolution that you can get on a smartphone, but it is what it is, and it's super cool, super creative. The last app is the Moment Retro app, which, as the name suggests, turns your modern electronic computational photography camera into a retro camera. Large amount of flexibility. You can get film-like photos, film-like videos, and it's great for making stories on Instagram. I don't use this in my professional work or in my YouTube work at all. All the other remaining apps in my photo video folder are basically editing apps which I use from time to time as I need them. You don't need all of this. The surprising part about all the shooting apps that I have is I don't use majority of them, like 90% of the time. Shooting on the iPhone's stock camera app, which I think is absolutely perfect for anyone who wants to film. Getting an iPhone because it's easy and convenient. And what's more convenient than the inbuilt app which you can just swipe over and open up immediately and start filming. Simple, it has everything you need. You're good to go. Okay, let's go into the stock camera app and let's see how the interface is, and then I'm going to tell you about frame rate. So as you go into the stock camera app, you're going to be able to see on the top right hand side corner you have 4K and 60 frames per second written down. What this basically means is you're going to be shooting in a resolution of 4K and the frame rate that you're using is 60 frames per second. Now you remember we set this up in the settings initially. That's what I normally keep on my phone because I want 4K 60 if I just want to capture a shot. It helps me get that flexibility where I can slow the shot down later. If you're going to be talking to the camera, I don't suggest you use 4K 60. I suggest you use the frame rate 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second, whichever one you like. 24 gives you that more cinematic feel and look. 30 frames per second basically gives you the YouTube look, which is what YouTube also recommends. I prefer 4K 24 personally. I have an entire video explaining frame rate. Do go check that out, but this is just the shorter version on what frame rates you should actually use. Okay, on the top left hand side corner, you're going to see ProRes. Yes, you guys remember we already switched that on in the main camera settings. The reason I keep it on over there is because as you can see, if you tap ProRes on your screen, it goes on and off within the camera app. Now, ProRes is a video codec. A lot of professional cameras use this video codec. It is super good to edit on ProRes as well, but the only downside to it is if you keep shooting in ProRes, you're going to fill up your iPhone in like 10 minutes. The storage is crazy. It takes about 6 GB for 1 minute of footage, which is a lot. I suggest if you're doing a lot of night video work, film in ProRes so you can edit it and you can get a better image out of it. But if you're shooting day-to-day stuff, I think shooting in the normal mode without ProRes because you'll save up a lot of space. But yes, it's a fantastic codec. It is a professional codec. It's absolutely mind-blowing that a phone is shooting in ProRes nowadays. Okay, we have to break down resolutions next because this has gone on in the industry for a very long time. And as you guys can see, when we open up our camera app after we've dialed in the settings, you see 4K 24, 4K 30 or 4K 60 as the standard resolution. If you have an iPhone that's 128 GB and you've already filled up like 50% of that, then I recommend you don't shoot in 4K because that remaining 50% is going to fill up super fast. If you have an iPhone that's higher than 128 GB of storage, definitely urge you to shoot in 4K. When you put up your videos on any of these platforms, they're going to stay there forever until you manually go and decide to choose to delete them. Which means 10 years down the line, if somebody wants to go back and watch your old videos, they can. And we're already at 8K in 2023, which means 10 years down the line, you might be at a higher resolution. And at that point, when people are used to resolutions such as 8K or higher, if you're shooting in 1080p, you're going to be able to notice a difference. And the entire idea about shooting and filming is creating memories, and you want your memories in the highest quality possible. So definitely shoot in 4K. Okay, so let's officially move out of the video tab in your camera app and switch to the slow motion tab. You just got to swipe left and you'll see the slow motion tab opens up. Now, slow motion is basically your phone shooting in higher frame rates so that while you're editing, you can slow it down. The magical part about the iPhone is you shoot in slow motion mode and you don't need to slow it down. The iPhone will do it for you. You get to shoot in HD 120 frames per second as well as HD 240 frames per second. Now, what this means is you're shooting in very high frame rates because the maximum you have in the normal video mode is 4K at 60 frames per second. So you see 60 frames to 120 is almost double. There's a ton of mirrorless cameras on the market that don't shoot 120 frames per second and they cost as much as your iPhone does. So if you have this on your phone, I think it's fantastic. Now the downside about the slow motion tab on your camera is the fact that it can only shoot in HD. It can't shoot in 4K. And we just spoke about how you want to shoot as much of 4K as you can. Yeah, this is a downside. If you look at majority of the consumer cameras on the market, you're going to notice that the only cameras that can shoot in 4K 120 frames per second is probably our cameras that cost $3,000 and above. If you want slightly better quality slow motion, I suggest that you don't shoot in the slow motion tab on your phone. You go back to the video mode. Instead of choosing 4K 24 or 4K 30, choose 4K 60. Basically means you get 50% slow motion, you get half speed. It's going to be a lot crisper because you're shooting in 4K, and that's exactly what I like to do. So if you're going to edit your footage and you want the best looking slow motion, 4K 60. Otherwise, feel free to use this menu. It's still pretty good. Okay, we're now going to run down all the lenses that you have on your iPhones. We have a total of 5 lenses on the iPhone 14 Pro models, and we have 3 lenses on the regular 14 model. You have your standard 1x, which is your standard lens. This is your best lens. It has the largest sensor. It's not too wide, it's not too tight. It's about 24 millimeters in focal length, which is quite good, to be completely honest. It's a good focal length to have, very versatile. The next, we have the most fun lens on your iPhone, which is the ultra wide lens, which you have on the regular 14 models as well. I think this lens is the best lens for vloggers. If you want to capture landscape shots, it's really good. If you want to show your environment where you are, it's really great. And if you want to film stories for Instagram, as well as you want to just walk around and talk to the camera, I think this lens is the best lens. Also, it's not the best in low light, so you want to have good light when you're shooting in this. It has been improved over the years, still not the best in low light. The next lens on the 14 Pro models is the 2x lens, which basically is a digital lens. It basically crops into the 48 megapixel sensor on the 1x lens. Because it's 48 megapixels, you can still maintain a really sharp image, fantastic focal length. It's very similar to what you used to have on your older iPhone Pro model. And last but not the least, you have the telephoto lens, which is the 3x lens. It's 77 millimeters. This lens has been improved over the last year and a half. I think it's really good now. Definitely got a large amount of compression to it, so I really love this lens for that reason. You have that depth of field. You have to keep in mind, none of the lenses except for the 1x are going to be great in low light. All of them are going to be pretty soft in low light and pretty mushy, but it is what it is. And last but not the least, we have the selfie lens, the front-facing camera. While this hasn't gone through any radical designs this year, and Apple didn't advertise much about it, trust me, there's a massive difference between the front-facing camera on the 13 series and the 14 series. The 14 series is much better. If you want to film for social media and you want to talk to the camera and you want to be able to see yourself, I would still say that you can use the front-facing camera on the 14 series. And the best part is you can pretty much just look at yourself and film whatever you want to film and you're good to go. So that's the best part about the front-facing camera. It's massively improved. Do try it out. Okay, let's quickly look at cinematic mode. Now, this came out last year with the iPhone 13 series. It was mind-blowing for the time. The only downside to it was the fact that you could only shoot in 1080p and at 30 frames per second, which when you're talking about cinematic video makes absolutely no sense because 30 FPS is not cinematic no matter what anybody else tells. So yeah, cinematic mode is much better than what it used to be. You can now shoot in cinematic mode in 4K in 24 frames per second, which is fantastic. The best part about cinematic mode is that you can get that depth of field. As you guys can see, I'm now filming this on a GoPro. Basically, everything behind me is in focus. There's no blur that's happening, which you have in your portrait mode photos. That's called depth of field. The iPhone can basically blur out your background using software just like it does with your portrait mode photographs, which you're used to for the last few years. The best part about it is that you can actually adjust the amount of blur that you have even after you're done filming, which makes this completely game-changing. Use it sparingly in the right moments to capture your subjects and you're going to get fantastic quality footage. Okay, let's jump into the new flagship feature on the iPhone 14 series, which is action mode. Action mode is supposed to be gimbal-like stabilization inbuilt on your smartphone. You just gotta tap your screen and your iPhone goes into action mode. To be very honest, it is pretty cool. I did see the keynote and Apple did overhype this to a whole different level, but action mode is really good in my opinion. iPhones have always had fantastic stabilization. Like, they've been so good, at least over the last 3 years. You can literally walk around with this phone in your hand, film handheld, and you're not gonna be able to notice. You're gonna think it was all filmed on a gimbal, and that is mind-blowing. And that's why I think Apple blew it out of proportion, because the stabilization was already great. But yes, action mode is definitely better, and you can only probably notice it in moments when you're really shaking your hand and shaking the camera. For example, if you're driving a car and you want to capture another car moving and your car's swerving around and there's a large amount of traffic, that's when you'll notice action mode kick in, and that's when you'll actually realize how cool this actually is. Chase my dog using action mode, and you guys can see there is a difference between action mode and the standard stabilization, but it's not that massive. At the end of the day, it is pretty cool. Downsides to action mode in my opinion is, firstly, it defaults to the ultra wide lens. You can use action mode on other lenses, but the crop is going to be so heavy on those lenses. The maximum resolution for action mode is 2.8K and not 4K. And while I would have loved 4K even in this mode, it's not bad. You're going to be using your phone and you're going to be creating videos for YouTube and social media. You're going to notice the difference between 2.8K and 4K. You have to really zoom into the image to be able to see this. In my honest opinion, if you use it correctly, you can really get a lot out of this mode as well. Now, if you're a vlogger and your main reason to get the iPhone is the ultra-wide lens because it is one of the best ultra-wide lens on any phone that you can get on the market today, and you wanted to put it like this and start vlogging because of how wide and good the image looks, and now the one reason that's actually stopping you from vlogging is the fact that you can't see yourself, well, here's a little hack that I've been using for the last maybe 3 years now. You have an app on your Apple Watch. Now, of course, this is going to work only if you have an Apple Watch, but if you do have an Apple Watch, there's an app on it called Camera Remote. Turn on that app, your Apple Watch connects to your iPhone, and you can basically see whatever your iPhone camera sees on your wrist. So if you want to vlog, your phone in the same hand that you have your Apple Watch on, you can see if you're framed correctly and you're good to go. And this is the hack that I've been using for the last 3 years, and I still use it till today, and I think it's absolutely mind-blowing that you can actually see what your camera is shooting on your Apple Watch. Definitely try this out. Let me know in the comments section if this worked out well for you. And last but not the least, we're going to look at my favorite editing apps. Now, your iPhone is basically your entire YouTube studio or your Instagram creation device. It can do everything from shooting to editing to sharing on any platform that you want, and that's why I love it so much. And that's exactly why I switched my entire workflow away from standard cameras, standard video cameras to just the iPhone because of the ease of use. You need to basically invest in an editing app. If you have a computer, by all means, you can go for Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve, or Premiere Pro, which are the professional video editing apps on desktop. If you don't have a computer and you just want to do everything off of your iPhone or maybe your Samsung tablet or maybe your iPad, there's 2 apps that I would recommend you check out. The first one is basically InShot. InShot is available on Android, so if you have an Android tablet, you can transfer your footage from your iPhone to that. It's got a subscription module to it, but it's pretty cheap and it's got a large amount of features that you can use. I think InShot is my preferred app if I want to edit videos for Instagram or YouTube Shorts. That's what I would use. And if you're somebody who wants to create long form content and put it up on YouTube, really professional looking content, the most professional app that I would recommend to any mobile creator is LUMAFUSION. LUMAFUSION is a one-time pay. I think it's also available on Android now, if I'm not wrong, but it is definitely available on iPhones and iPads, even on Macs, and it is fantastic. Very similar to Final Cut Pro on the Mac. Does lack a couple of features that Final Cut Pro has, but it is definitely the most professional editing software that you can get on mobile. If you work on LUMAFUSION, you can pretty much become a full-fledged video editor because it has 90% of what you would need. I basically shoot everything on my iPhone and edit everything on my iPad Pro. I'm a mobile editor and you guys could be one too, so definitely check out these 2 editing apps because I've personally used them and you can't go wrong with them. And that's basically that. I hope you learned something about filmmaking with your iPhone today. I basically use an iPhone for everything, life at sea, when I'm on land, when I'm shooting street photography, when I'm shooting YouTube videos and tech reviews at home, I use just an iPhone and a GoPro every now and then. I hope this filmmaking guide was useful for you guys. And if you guys enjoyed this, definitely give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because it really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm and I can keep making more videos just like this for you guys in the near future. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.